So 3 ribs are left, 10th, 11th and 12th, okay? These 3 are atypical ribs. So you have been taught about the typical ribs, right? What are the typical ribs? And anterior and posterior, and what are the features of the posterior end? Okay. So how many facets are there in the head? 2 facets, okay. How do you hold a rib in anatomical position? We hold it in a pen holding position, okay? Posteriorly this head, neck and tubercle, anteriorly facet for costal cartilage and below costal groove. So like this, in pen holding position we hold ribs, okay? This is the pen holding position. Now this is a typical rib, okay? Now this is the 10th atypical rib, okay, this one. So what are the differences? You can so it has 2 differences from the typical ribs. First, that it is short as compared to that of the typical rib, okay? This is typical, this is 10th atypical. So you can see that it is shorter as compared to that of the typical rib. And in typical rib, as I've already told, we have 2 articular facets, but in 10th atypical rib we will have only 1 articular facet, okay? And it will combined with the numerically corresponding vertebra, okay? It will articulate with numerically corresponding vertebra. That is, it is 10th rib, so it will articulate with the body of 10th vertebra, okay? So 2 differences of the 10th atypical rib. First, it is shorter as compared to the typical rib, and second is it has only 1 articular facet for articulating with the body of vertebra, okay? So rest all features are similar to that of a typical rib, okay? Only 2 differences. Next, it is 11th rib, okay? 11th atypical rib. So what are the differences? Again, it is shorter as compared to that of the typical rib. Second one, again it has only 1 articular facet to articulate with the numerically corresponding vertebra, that is 11th vertebra, okay? This is 11th atypical rib, so it will articulate with 11th vertebra. Third, can you see any tubercle here? No tubercle, okay? So it will have no tubercle, no neck, also no angle, which are the features of a typical rib. This is tubercle, neck, okay? But it has no tubercle and no neck, okay? And you remember the costal groove of a typical rib? It is quite deep, but here you can see that it is shallow, means it is not that much deep, okay? Costal groove, a faint costal groove in the 11th rib, okay? And here you can see that in a typical rib, the anterior end, there is 1 facet for costal cartilage, but its anterior end is pointed, okay? So what are the differences? First, it is shorter as compared to that of a typical rib. Second, it has 1 articular facet. Third, it has no neck, no tubercle, okay? And faint costal groove, and the anterior end is pointed, okay? So 10th rib, only 2 differences. First is short, second is 1 articular facet, okay? 11th, short, 1 articular facet, no neck, no tubercle, costal groove is faint and anterior end is pointed, okay? Now this is the 12th one, okay? Again, all the features will be similar to 11th one, but costal groove will be absent, angle will be absent, okay? Anterior end is pointed, okay? So what are the differences? Again, 10th rib, 2 differences. First is short, second is 1 articular facet to articulate with the body of 10th vertebra. Rest all the features are similar to that of the typical rib, okay? 2 differences in case of 10th rib. 11th, short, then again 1 articular surface for articulating with body of 11th vertebra, no neck, no tubercle, angle is slight and shallow costal groove, okay? And anterior end is pointed, okay? 12th, similarly, short, no neck, no tubercle, angle is absent, costal groove is absent and anterior end is pointed, okay? So these are the differences of 10th, 11th and 12th rib from the typical ribs. Clear? Okay. Now this is the 12th rib, okay? Smallest one, and anterior end is pointed, okay? So this is the anterior surface of the 12th rib and this is the posterior surface, okay? This is the anterior surface, this one, anterior surface, and backwards is the posterior surface of the lip. Okay, this is medial and or lateral? Medial. This is lateral. Okay. So first of all about the anterior surface. Okay, anterior surface we will see first of all about the medial part. Okay, anterior surface, medial part. Okay. So in the lower end there is one muscle which is quadratus lumborum. Okay, medial anterior surface, medial part, in the lower near the lower border we have quadratus lumborum. Okay, then there is one quadratus lumborum is basically a muscle of the posterior abdominal wall. Okay, it is located between the psoas major muscle and transversus abdominis. Okay, so it is located on the anterior surface, medial half, lower part. Okay, now there is one fascia which is thoracolumbar fascia. Okay, it basically separates the paraspinal muscles. Okay, so there are three layers of this thoracolumbar fascia: anterior layer, middle layer, and posterior layer. Okay, so here is quadratus lumborum. So just above the quadratus lumborum there is anterior layer. Okay, below middle layer, and in the this is lower border lateral side. Here will be the posterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia. Okay, anterior surface, medial part. In the lower part we have quadratus lumborum. Above it anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia. Below middle layer of thoracolumbar fascia, and here is the posterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia. Okay, lower border lateral side. Clear? Now comes the upper border. In the medial side, upper border, we will have intercostal muscle. Okay, and in the upper border lateral side we will have the diaphragm. Okay, so what are the attachments in the anterior surface? This is the anterior surface. First of all we are reading about the medial side. Okay, so medial side, lower part, we are having quadratus lumborum. Okay, above quadratus lumborum, anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia. Below it, here middle layer of thoracolumbar fascia. Okay, and in the lower border lateral side we are having the posterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia. So now the upper border. Upper border medial side we are having intercostal muscle, and lateral side diaphragm. Clear? So these are the muscle attachments of the anterior surface. Now this is the posterior one. Okay, posterior one in the medial side. Okay, medial side we are having two ligaments. First is lumbocostal ligament and costotransverse ligament. Okay, here will be lumbocostal ligament and costotransverse ligament. First of all we are reading about the medial part. Okay, then muscle levator costae, erector spinae. Okay, and in the lateral side we are having serratus posterior inferior, and above we are having latissimus dorsi, and below external oblique muscle. Okay, posterior, here you can see this is the posterior surface. Medially one will be lumbocostal, here will be costotransverse. Okay, it will be lumbocostal. Okay, lumbocostal here will be costotransverse. Then we have the levator costae muscle, then erectus spinae. Here serratus posterior inferior along the upper border, latissimus dorsi, and lower external oblique abdominis muscle. Clear? This is the posterior surface of the 12th rib, and this is the anterior surface of the 12th rib. Okay, anteriorly medial side near the lower part we are having this muscle quadratus lumborum. Above it anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia, below middle layer, and here will be the posterior layer. Okay, upper border medially will be internal intercostal muscle, and laterally diaphragm. Okay, and this area of the rib is attached with the pleura. Okay, which pleura? Parietal pleura. Okay, pleura two types, parietal pleura and visceral pleura. Okay, and here will be another ligament which is the lateral arcuate ligament. It is also attached in the lateral to the quadratus lumborum in the lower border, along the lower border. Okay, lateral arcuate ligament. See the medial half of the anterior surface, I told this part, it is related with the pleura. Okay, now what is costodiaphragmatic recess? So there are parietal pleura and visceral pleura. Parietal pleura has various parts like costal part, diaphragmatic part, mediastinal part, cervical part. Okay, the recess between the costal part and diaphragmatic part will be costodiaphragmatic recess. Okay, now clinical. Pleural tapping is basically what happens. So as I told, parietal layer of pleura and visceral layer of pleura. Like in peritoneum, you have studied parietal peritoneum and visceral peritoneum. So in between these two layers, there can be collection of fluid, okay, or pus, okay, like pyothorax or blood, hemothorax. So we need to drain this fluid. Okay, how we drain this fluid? We need to insert a needle in the intercostal space along the mid-axillary line. Okay, now one important clinical question is that through which part of the intercostal space we should enter the needle. Okay, suppose this here we will enter the needle in this intercostal space. We will enter the needle through this part or this part. What do you think? Suppose in this intercostal space we will enter the needle. We should enter it through here or through here? Below. Why? Yes, so in the lower part of the rib we are having costal group which have the neurovascular bundle, your vein structures. So if we enter the needle through here, it can injure the vein structures. So it is safer to enter through the upper border of the lower rib. Okay, upper border of the lower rib we will insert the needle, okay, along the mid-axillary line. Clear? Next is notching of rib. It is basically your radiological finding. Okay, you can see this part, this spiral part. Okay, this is basically notching of rib. What happens? The posterior intercostal artery become tortuous. Tortuous means twisted. Okay, twisted and dilated, which give rise to this notching of ribs. It basically happens whenever there is blockage of axillary artery or brachial artery. Okay, this is a radiological finding. What happens? The posterior intercostal arteries will get twisted or tortuous and dilated. That is why we get this notching of ribs in case of brachial artery or axillary artery block. Clear? Next is your fracture of ribs. So basically fracture of ribs. Do you think first and second rib will be prone to fracture or not? No. Why? Because it is protected by the clavicle. Okay, and 11th and 12th rib also I have told that they don't have any angle. So angle of the rib is the most common site of fracture in a rib. Okay, the angle of the rib is the most common site of fracture in the rib. So 11 and 12 doesn't have this angle, so they are also less prone to fracture. And also first and second rib is also less prone to fracture because it is protected by the clavicle. Okay, and in children, because of the elastic thoracic wall, they are also less prone to fracture. Okay, their ribs. So the vertebrosternal ribs are most commonly fractured. So here you can see that you can see this fracture of ribs. Okay, so when two or more consecutive ribs get fractured at two or more sides, it is known as flail chest. Okay, flail chest. Okay. You can see two or more consecutive ribs is getting fractured at two or more sides. Okay, these are consecutive. It is getting fractured at two or more sides. So it is called flail chest. So what happens there? Whenever there will be free fracture, there will be paradoxical movement of chest. What happens? Like in inspiration, what happens when we inspire? Our chest wall goes outward, and in expiration it goes inward. But here you can see that in case of inspiration, it is going inside. Okay, and in expiration it is blowing out. Okay, just the opposite movements of your normal respiratory movements. This is known as paradoxical chest movement. Okay, it occurs in flail chest. Okay, now clear till this 10th rib, 11th rib, 12th rib, muscle attachments. Okay, now the costal cartilages. So these are basically your costal cartilages, and also 11th and 12th ribs, as you can see that their anterior end is free. So these are known as floating ribs. Okay, and 8th, 9th, 10th your vertebrochondral ribs. Okay. Okay, so these are your costal cartilage. So what is costal cartilage? These are basically the unossified part of the ribs. Okay, the ribs is not ossified in that part, that is why there is cartilage. Okay, these are basically hyaline cartilage. Okay, they provide elasticity to the chest wall. Okay, this costal cartilage. So as you can, so what are the? This is the anterior surface. Okay, anterior. This is the posterior. Okay, this is the medial end. This is the lateral end. Okay, anterior, posterior, medial end, lateral end. Okay, this is the upper border and this is the lower border. Okay, anterior, posterior, medial end, lateral end, upper border and lower border. Okay, so the medial part is connected with the sternum. Okay, and the lateral part is connected with the anterior end of the ribs. Okay. Okay, so this joint, okay, between the first costal cartilage and the, what is this? Which part of sternum? Manubrium. So this joint between the first costal cartilage and the manubrium is your primary cartilaginous joint or synchondrosis. Okay, and rest all these joints, okay, this all these joints are your synovial joint. Okay, including this joint, they combine with the seventh costal cartilage to join the sternum. So these are also synovial joint. Okay, only this first joint between the first costal cartilage and the manubrium is your primary cartilaginous joint. Okay, or synchondrosis. Rest all are synovial joints. Now about the muscle attachments. Okay, so first is internal intercostal muscle and external intercostal membrane. So these are attached in the upper border and the lower border. Okay, this is the intercostal space. So here will be intercostal muscles. Okay, next is pectoralis major. It is attached to the this is the anterior surface of the first, sixth or seventh ribs. Okay, pectoralis major. Then comes rectus abdominis, anterior surface of fifth, sixth and seventh cartilage. Then internal oblique aponeurosis, again the anterior surface of 7th, 8th and 9th. Clear? Next comes your sternocostalis. So posterior surface we have two. First is sternocostalis on the posterior surface of 2nd to 6th costal cartilage. Okay, and then transversus abdominis from 7th to 12th, posterior surface only. So posterior surface we have two, sternocostalis and transversus abdominis, and anterior surface we have three, pectoralis major, rectus abdominis and internal oblique abdominis. Okay, now subclavius, it is attached on the anterior surface of first costal cartilage. Okay, and sternothyroid on the posterior surface of first costal cartilage, and costoclavicular ligament, and costoclavicular means between the rib and the clavicle, and the sternoclavicular joint articular disc is attached on the upper surface of costal cartilage. Okay, so in the anterior surface we are having pectoralis major, rectus abdominis and internal oblique abdominis, and posteriorly we are having transversus abdominis and sternocostalis. And first costal cartilage, anterior we are having subclavius and posterior we are having sternothyroid. Clear? Okay. So for 10-3, what are the differences I told? First is it is shorter, second is only one articular facet for articulating with 10th vertebra. Okay. Now 11-3, shorter, one articular facet, no neck, no tubercle, slight angle, costal groove is shallow, and anterior end is pointed. Okay. 12th one, no costal groove, short, no neck, no angle, no tubercle. Okay, and anterior end is pointed. Clear? Muscle attachments clear? Okay, anterior surface, medial side, in the lower end we are having quadratus lumborum, above it anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia, below middle layer, and in the lower border, lateral part, posterior layer. Okay, clear? Okay, upper border, in the upper part, medial side we are having intercostal muscle, and here is the diaphragm. Okay, clear? Okay.